Good evening and welcome to a special half-hour edition of Time Warner Cable News. I'm Ed Greenberger. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll take a look back at the events of early Thursday morning at South by Southwest that left 2 people dead and 3 more in critical condition. We'll explore those fateful moments on Red River Street as well as the aftermath. We begin tonight with our John Salazar. He joins us now from Red River Street, where the tragedy unfolded just after midnight. John, I know the scene is all cleaned up now, but what happened there just 21 hours ago is still fresh on everyone's minds.
Well, it's hard to believe that that happened less than 24 hours ago, because lots of people are here ready to celebrate for the second night of music here at South by Southwest. Now, Ed, there are a lot of people that know exactly what happened last night, but there's still people walking up to me saying, "Hey man, what are you doing, Lady Gaga? What show are you here for?" And I tell them about what happened and they're absolutely shocked. So the message has not gone out. But what happened last night is a tragedy that is felt by many people in the city. Less than 24 hours after tragedy sped down Red River Street,
I want to see absolutely everything.
South by Southwest fans line up. Evidence the show must go on. For this music lover, the evening schedule ignored.
My family life was changed 20 years ago by drunk drivers.
Like tens of thousands, Cassandra Lawrence traveled to Austin for the joy of the festival.
Music is like a healing.
But instead of celebration, the DC native reflects on her own personal tragedy that literally hit close to home.
You know, my dad was the drunk driver, and he also killed other people.
Miss Lawrence says in 1993 on the East Coast, her father, intoxicated, slammed his vehicle into a van load of students.
Something you carry with you forever.
And while police say they suspected Rashad Owens was drinking and driving, Cassandra sits in reflection and offers simple advice all of us should listen up to.
Just don't do it.
Yeah, you're looking at the Mohawk, a place that was hosting music last night. Now, Ed, I've got to tell you how close to home this kind of tragedy is for lots of people. I received a text message at about 1 o'clock in the morning last night. My son was in the venue, and he put it in perspective for me. He said, "Dad, we were inside, everybody was having a good time, the band was playing, people were crowd surfing, people were moshing, and on the outside there was death and tragedy." That coming from my 17-year-old. So this is being felt across the city.
All right, thanks a lot, John Salazar. That did hit close to home, and I'm glad your son is doing okay. Police have 21-year-old Rashad Owens of Killeen in custody. They say Owens is the man who drove his car into the crowd, and he's been charged with 2 counts of capital murder. More on the suspect later, but we wanted to give you a better picture of the 2 people who died at the scene. The first was 27-year-old Jamie Renee West. West was killed while riding on a moped. She was married and was a sales inventory clerk and jewelry assembler at a boutique here in Austin. The second person who died was not from Austin. In fact, he wasn't even from this country. We talk about South by Southwest being a global event. Well, Stephen Cranmer was from the Netherlands. The 35-year-old Cranmer was on a bicycle when he was hit. On their website, his employer, Massive Music, identified Cranmer as a musician and their creative director. Jamie West and Stephen Cranmer died at the scene, but nearly 24 others were taken to local hospitals. Out of the 23 others who were injured, 3 still in critical condition. The other 20 were either treated or released or are in fair to good condition tonight. When a tragedy like this strikes, it's not unusual to see the community getting together physically and spiritually to honor the people who died and to pray for those whose lives still hang in the balance. Tonight, that came in the form of a prayer vigil at St. David's Episcopal Church. Our Chris Sobalski was there.
Well, that prayer vigil was scheduled for 5:30 this afternoon. Now, we're at the scene right here, but St. David's is about 2.5 blocks that way. Now, church leaders said they scheduled that vigil on such short notice because they want the community to heal.
Draw near to us who mourn, and dry the tears of those who weep.
30 minutes of prayers, psalms, and hymns were the first steps in moving forward.
Lots of things that we can't do anything about, but there is a God who loves us and cares for all of us, even in our times of pain.
In the heart of downtown, in the middle of South by, the music resonated off the walls of St. David's. The church says even though it's not Sunday, they want the community to find shelter.
Our walls are not closed. We're an open building that continues to open itself up to this community every day in lots and lots of different ways.
You wept at the grave of Lazarus.
Emotions ran deep and tears flowed for the roughly 36 people who showed up to the vigil.
This festival, I mean, it's supposed to be fun and, you know, everybody's supposed to enjoy life, and then we have death, you know, so it really hurt.
Even a group of Dutch visitors who didn't know the victims came by.
They shouldn't have stopped the festival, but it's good to do this memorial and to, as he said, to pay respect.
The Lord himself is thy keeper.
Chief Art Acevedo read a psalm about heavenly protection.
I'm so proud to be the chief of the police in this city.
It may have been a dark morning in Austin, but the chief says things are looking up.
From this tragedy comes a great silver lining, and that is that the human spirit is alive and well, and it is a very healthy spirit here in Austin.
The church also handed out flowers after the vigil to give people something that they could remember their prayers by. Reporting in downtown Austin, Chris Cebulski, Time Warner Cable News.
Another thing that often happens in the wake of this type of tragedy is a drop in supply at local blood banks. The Blood Center of Central Texas delivered plenty of blood to Austin area hospitals after the incident, and now they need to replenish their supply. In particular, they need type O negative and type O positive blood. In fact, they've needed those blood types for a couple weeks, so you can imagine how dire the situation is now. The Blood Center wants your help, and they have 3 fixed sites where you can donate. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at exactly what happened early Thursday morning, and we'll have more on the suspect. Later, a live update from Butler Park where the music continues. We'll show you how the bands are paying tribute to the victims. But first, as we head to break, more from Austin Police Chief Art Acevedo.
I believe in the power of prayer. I believe in that this is a step for all of us recovering and moving on. I mean, that's God created us as very resilient people. Mothers can bury their children. There's nothing we can't overcome, and I think this is.
Welcome back. For the first time in its nearly 3-decade-long history, South by Southwest experienced tragedy early Thursday morning. 2 people dead, 3 still in critical condition. Our Jess Mitchell covered the story as it unfolded all night long. Jess takes a look back at how it all happened.
This is an individual that committed an intentional act.
An individual accused of running from police and driving into a crowd, killing 2 people and injuring 23 others.
Our thoughts and prayers are with everybody that has been impacted, not just the people that have been killed by this selfish individual who showed absolutely no regard for the sanctity of life and for the individual on the street, but also for the individuals that witnessed this, that were forced to jump out of the way.
Police say the suspect, who has been identified as 21-year-old Rashad Owens, drove the wrong way down 9th Street through police barricades at 9th and Red River, then into a crowd.
I just jumped out of the way and he missed me, and he went down there and he plowed through, hit about 30 people.
Police say he hit and killed 2 people, a man riding a bicycle visiting from the Netherlands and an Austin woman on a moped. They say they tried to stop Owens for suspected drunken driving at a gas station on the I-35 frontage road at 9th Street, but he fled and at high speeds hit pedestrians on Red River until he collided with a bicycle, moped, taxi, and van at 11th Street.
This is an individual that showed no regard for the human beings that he plowed to in his attempt to get away.
Police urged South by Southwest leaders to continue the festival, and Mayor Lee Leffingwell says in its 27-year history, there has never been an incident of this kind.
We will, of course, as we always do, continually evaluate all of our events to make sure they're as safe as they can possibly be.
In downtown Austin, Jess Mitchell, Time Warner Cable News.
We want to give you an even more detailed idea of exactly what happened. Police say an officer suspected Rashad Owens of driving drunk around 12:30 a.m. and attempted to pull him over at a Shell gas station at the corner of 9th Street and the I-35 frontage road. They say Owens pulled into the station in what reportedly was a stolen car, but then immediately pulled out onto 9th Street to get away. From there, he drove the wrong way down 9th with an officer in pursuit. Then he turned right onto Red River, which was blocked off to traffic. Police say Owens went through a barricade, drove into a crowd of people, then reportedly continued driving for 2 more blocks, hitting a taxi, a van, a moped, and a bicycle. There were 2 people, as we said, on that moped, one of whom was Jamie West, who died at the scene. The bike rider was 35-year-old Stephen Cranmer of the Netherlands, who also died at the scene. The suspect then got out of the car and tried to run. The officer who tried to pull him over caught up to him on foot and was able to tase him. That is how it ended. According to police, the entire incident took only about 1 minute, but that 1 minute was long enough to take 2 lives, and again, 3 more people in critical condition tonight. We are learning more about the man police say was responsible for the chaos on Red River Street. 21-year-old Rashad Owens is awaiting formal charges tonight at the Travis County Jail. Owens is expected to be charged with 2 counts of capital murder and 23 counts of aggravated assault. Keep in mind, if he's convicted, capital murder carries with it the possibility of the death penalty. Owens, as we said, is from Killeen, but he's originally from South Carolina, and he does have a criminal history. Owens was previously arrested in Bell County on criminal trespass charges and spent several weeks in jail. Several EMS crews treated people on Red River Street, while others took patients to area hospitals. The ones in critical condition were taken to University Medical Center Brackenridge, a level 1 trauma center that, luck would have it, is just a block from the scene. Hospital officials praised EMS's fast response in gathering information, as well as deciding where to take patients. EMS officials say their crews are always undergoing training. In fact, they had just undergone a mass casualty training last week, and one of the scenarios they practiced was a car going into a crowd.
You've actually had to make those decisions in advance, and then when you're trying to operate in the heat of battle, some of those decisions have already been made. You've already experienced what happens when you make the decisions. So you're faster in making your decisions are more effective and more concise, and I think everyone benefited because of it.
You know, the saying is be prepared, and they were. As an extra precaution in light of the events of early Thursday morning, the Austin Police Department is taking steps to keep cars farther away from pedestrians. APD is widening its street closures by several blocks. 8th and 9th Streets from the I-35 frontage road to Natchez Street is closed to cars tonight. Access to the frontage road itself will not be affected. Coming up, we'll have a live look at Butler Park, where the music continues tonight. But first, more reaction from festival goers in the wake of the tragedy at South by Southwest.
I feel like even today, a little bit of the mood is dampened. Like there aren't as many people out as there were yesterday at this time.
That could have happened anywhere. It's not just specific to Austin or this event. People have to continue to do what they love here and what they came here for.
Welcome back to our special, The Tragedy at South by Southwest. The 2 venues on the block where the incident happened, the Mohawk and Cheer Up Charlie's, canceled their day shows today, but after consulting with South by Southwest organizers, those venues decided to go on with their night shows as planned. South by Southwest officials, obviously affected by what happened, they released this statement today. Quote, "We appreciate and commend the first responders as well as the city agencies who quickly sprung into action. We will be making schedule and venue changes for programming in the surrounding area of last night's events. All other programming will continue as previously scheduled." And so, as they say, the show must go on, and go on it does at venues like Butler Park, where there's a free concert happening tonight, and that is where we find our Jeff Stensland. Jeff, you always wonder in the wake of something like this exactly how people will react. What's the mood like out there?
Well, honestly, Ed, it is a little bit demure from what it usually would be. Usually this time of night, you would see all these concerts starting to ramp up as people are possibly taking off that Friday off to go out to these concerts and enjoy the live music. This concert here behind us catered towards Central Texans as well as those South by Southwest goers, but there is a lot more room here tonight than we all expected.
We have to go on. That could have happened anywhere. It's not just specific to Austin or this event. People have to continue to do what they love here.
The concerts continue, but with a somber undertone.
It's very unfortunate what happened. We're all very sorry for it. We all feel it as a community here in Austin.
It's the music capital of the world. It's still going to go on, and I think it should.
Organizers expected a packed Butler Park for the South by Southwest outdoor stage concerts. Night 1 was a fraction of capacity. Fans that did come out were not just focused on the music, but on preventing a future tragedy.
If he would have just called a cab or just called someone to pick him up or do something organized better, more cops, more barricades.
They know like lots of people are going to be around, like put up bigger barricades instead of plastic.
Looking for a way to move past what happened.
I don't think it's going to dampen, but people will remember it, and hopefully, if anything, there will be some sort of resolution to, preventing things along those lines.
A spirit that could lead to a safer South by. Now, as far as those concerts, they'll be continuing on here at the Butler Park through Saturday. So there's two more opportunities. You may see the fence here behind me. This fence was actually to block off the public because they thought this would be at capacity all 3 nights. And I've talked to security officers here, Ed, as well as just witnessed it myself. This is a lot lighter than they expected it to be. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, many thinking that perhaps people are just staying home to kind of take it all in right now.
I guess that makes sense, Jeff. Now, I don't know if you heard John Salazar tell us a little while ago that he actually spoke to a lot of people out where he was who didn't even know what had happened last night. Did you meet anyone who was in that camp? They just honestly didn't know anything that occurred?
We did. We were feeding facts to a couple people, and I don't really care to do that too often. I just wanted to get the reaction to what they did know. But we did find a couple people that did not know anything about it. Personally, I was downtown last night covering the music awards as well, just down the street from this a couple blocks. I had just gotten out of the station and was on the other side of downtown near West 6th Street, and I heard the sirens, but for me personally, I've heard sirens all week. It's nothing more than I would expect to hear or see when you have 40,000 extra people in the streets in downtown. I was shocked to get home and start reading my emails from my coworkers at CS On Air talking about what had happened there about midnight.
Yeah. One more question, Jeff. We don't usually do this, ask this of our reporters, but I'd like you to give your opinion here. We heard Art Acevedo, APD police chief, earlier today say that the show should go on. You can't stop it just because, as he said, of the selfish acts of one man. Do you think, from what you've seen tonight and the people you have spoken with, do you think that they made the right decision in letting the show go on?
I do think so. I think a lot of people, like I put in that piece, a couple of people, every person that we talked to did have that mention of, we did need to take a moment to pause. They recognized the fact that Mohawk and Sheriff Charlie's took those afternoons off mainly because they had a crime scene in front of their building, but that they were having to clean up. But it was a good time to take at least a little bit of a pause, but to do what they think that these musicians and this jewelry maker here from Austin would have wanted us to do, which was to, I guess, celebrate their lives and remember them, but also to continue on with what we were doing before. Maybe take a little bit of a pause, though. I think it was somewhat appropriate to at least continue on with most of these concerts.
That's right. Okay. Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks so much. Coming up, our Andy Langer has an exclusive interview with the owner of the Mohawk. But first, as we go to a commercial break, a live look at Red River Street, where things are starting to get back to normal. Welcome back to this Time Warner Cable News special, The Tragedy at South by Southwest. As we told you earlier, the incident happened right in front of clubs on Red River Street. One of those venues is the Mohawk. Our Andy Langer got an exclusive interview with the club's owner, who talked about how they're working to help the victims' families.
The URL designed to raise money for victims of Wednesday evening's crash couldn't be any easier. SXSWcares.com, a community-based fund, and Bobby Garza here, General Manager of Transmission, who of course run the Mohawk. Everyone scrambled ultimately to put this thing together, and then the funds will come in, they'll be distributed, and that's what we know at this point, right?
Right, yeah, I think it's indicative of a community effort that happens with a bunch of things on Red River. If you spend any time down there, you know that everybody treats each other like family, and when stuff happens like what happened the other night, we try to rally around each other and make sure that we take care of each other.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, this is going to be something where hopefully people from around the world give people around the world affected by this. And, I mean, it brings, hopefully, I guess, attention back to here in a positive way.
Sure. I mean, South by sort of showcases Austin to the world, and the people that come visit, we hope that they're invested in the community and they care about what happens here. Ultimately, it wasn't just Austin residents that were affected. I mean, everybody from around the world was kind of touched by this, and I think that was that happen, by the widespread media coverage. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that, when bad stuff happens, there's a need for us to rally around as a music community across the globe and, help out wherever we can.
Your folks are working. The Mohawk and the neighbor Cheer Up Charlie's, both open for business, but your folks, I mean, particularly have to be rattled by what they saw, what they experienced Wednesday evening.
It's a really tough day for everyone, and I think that we're sort of, locking arms a little bit. I mean, we understand that South by Southwest is a once-a-year kind of deal, and it's an opportunity for bands to come, make a break and show themselves to a pretty wide audience, and that's a service that we provide to people, and it's an important one. The tragedy that happened was something that shook everybody to the core, but I think that in the final analysis, we have to get back on the horse and start working again.
All right, and what they put together through that final analysis is sxswcares.com, and that fund you can donate to at that URL, sxswcares.com. From around the Symphony Square area here on Red River, Andy Langer, Time Warner Cable News.
Well, as is the case with any breaking news event of this nature, this story unfolded in real time on social media early Thursday morning. The first video that came into our newsroom was from YouTube. Festival goers on Red River Street shot this amateur footage, many of them waiting in line for shows or had just left the Mohawk. It wasn't long before people took to Twitter and Facebook to post their videos and photos. You can find a complete photo gallery on our website, twcnews.com. We end this special half-hour look at the tragedy at South by Southwest with some of those photos. I'm Ed Greenberger. Thanks for joining us.